From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In the NOCO. I'm Erin O'Toole. When someone goes missing in the backcountry, every hour counts. Cold, dehydration, and exposure to the elements make their survival less likely as time ticks by. Rescuers also deal with rugged mountains, steep canyons, dense tree cover, and extreme temperatures at high elevations. All of this makes it more difficult to find someone quickly. In Colorado, about 3,000 people go missing each year, according to the State Search and Rescue Association. Now, a new technology could give search and rescue teams a powerful new tool. It effectively turns a helicopter into a moving cell phone tower and can detect a missing hiker's mobile phone. We're talking today with Dr. Tim Durkin. He coordinates search and rescue programs for Colorado Highland Helicopters in Durango. They're one of the first companies in the country to test this new technology ahead of it getting FCC approval. Dr. Durkin, welcome.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate y'all's interest in what we're doing.
So before we talk about this new tool, help us understand the challenge that a rescue team in a helicopter has to deal with. Briefly, why is it so hard to find and locate a lost person from the air?
Well, it's exceptionally difficult to find people when they're lost over a wide area in the backcountry. Speaking specifically from the perspective of a helicopter, I think a lot of people have a perception that if we just fly around, that you're going to find people really easily. And it turns out that it is really quite difficult to see someone from the air unless they're really doing something that, like they have a big bright tarp or something, or they have a light they can shine towards the helicopter, or they built a fire, or they've done something to really draw attention to themselves. It's really quite challenging just to find people with unaided vision, just looking out of the helicopter, which is where we've been trying to look at some different technologies and see what we can do to optimize that. Yeah,
and so that brings us to this key piece of new tech that you're testing out. It's called Lifeseeker.
Yeah.
First, let me ask you, where does it go on the helicopter? Where do you put it, and how do rescuers use it?
So it has some permanent provisions in our aircraft where we have cabling and antennas that are installed there. And then the actual unit is a suitcase, and it just straps to the floor of our aircraft, and then we plug it into the antennas, which are already there. It has a Wi-Fi network it established, and then the rescue specialist and the pilot can then look at the information from the system from a tablet, a Surface or a iPad tablet like anybody might have. And then it just gives us visual information about when it's picking up the signal.
So it truly is portable and can be put in different aircraft.
Correct. Yeah, and it just takes us about 3 minutes to, once the aircraft's kind of pre-configured for it, just to take it out or put it in. It's a really quick process.
Well, I feel like there's a lot of potential impact here because you have this portable technology that can basically go into helicopters that wouldn't normally have this kind of equipment to be used for search and rescue. How does that change the game here?
The impact of it is that we now have a radio-based technology to locate someone with a technology that is fairly ubiquitous in our society, that being a cell phone. Almost everyone has a cell phone that they take with them. And so if the cell phone's turned on and they're out in the mountains, even if they're away from towers, and in fact, the system even works a little better if they're off network and not affiliated with a tower, then the helicopter becomes the best looking and most attractive tower for the phone for the person who's lost. And so at that point, then as soon as we detect the phone, then we can just start flying over the area, and within a minute or two, just it rapidly narrows down on where the person is. In that sense, in the right use case, when someone has their phone still turned on, then we can detect them incredibly quickly, and what might be, a multi-day effort that may or may not be successful can be prosecuted and resolved in really a matter of minutes, which is transformative.
Yeah, that's incredible. I know you've flown at least one test mission recently. How well did Lifeseeker perform?
Yeah, so most of the testing we've done with it has been up in La Plata Canyon, which is on the north side of Durango, and that's an area where there's no cell phone coverage. It's fairly rugged. So having the helicopter crew not knowing where two subjects have just gone up in the canyon with a phone, then as soon as we turn the system on and start flying up the canyon, we are acquiring the signal almost immediately and then can localize it within a couple minutes. I mean, it's really kind of an impressive thing to see. So it's something we're pretty excited about and think it holds a lot of promise.
Yeah, it sounds like there is a lot of promise here. I don't know if you can estimate, how many lives this might save a year in Colorado, but can you give me an idea of the impact this could have?
Certainly in this area, we seem to have a half dozen to a dozen a year where it's really quite a challenge to find somebody. This is a really great tool that has a lot of potential. I think there's still an opportunity for a public education piece to say that, hey, if you are missing or overdue or lost, and particularly if you hear a helicopter, you probably ought to turn your phone on. I think in a lot of times in the past, the education was telling people to turn their phone off to save battery. But I think a modern phone knows if it's out of network to kind of go into a battery conservation mode anyway.
Sure.
So I think there's some opportunity to kind of tell people, hey, you could leave the phone on or bring an extra battery. And, it's just one more way that we can hopefully have a better chance of finding people.
Well, what's great about this, I think, is that pretty much everyone has a cell phone, even if it's just to take pictures along your hike. So really takes advantage of something everyone has.
100%, yeah.
Well, Tim, you've been a doctor who specializes in search and rescue for many years. I'm wondering what is exciting for you or maybe hopeful for you about this moment.
So I think what's exciting right now is the opportunity to do something new for me, that really has the chance to be impactful. Because I've certainly spent many nights kind of trudging through the woods in sort of suboptimal weather. And, I think if you join search and rescue as a volunteer, that is appealing to you on some levels. But, what's not very fun is the times when we don't find the person or we find them and it's not in a timely way, and then the process of giving that news to the family. And so just to have another tool that is really exciting and works really well and really has the potential to take days and hours of struggle and wondering and people's time to go out. And sometimes people, looking, they get hurt, they roll an ankle. There's so there's a lot of this process that we could potentially bypass and just go straight to, hey, there's the person and what do they need?
Well, Dr. Tim Durkin, this is such fascinating technology. Thank you so much for talking with me about it.
Thanks so much for your interest.
Here at In the NOCO, we love to hear from our listeners, and we want to know what questions you have about our state. Are you curious to know more about all the new housing popping up across the Front Range and where all that water is going to come from? Maybe you know of an interesting business or nonprofit that's filling a need here in Colorado that we should know about. Send us your questions or your ideas, and we'll do our best to look into some of them. Email us or send a voice memo to noco@kunc.org. That's NOCO@kunc.org.